guys, back with another video. I actually restarted this entire thing because I didn't want to misguide or anything, and I actually just realized that I had a few classes where I didn't want them to be. So I'm gonna actually restart this whole thing over, and we're gonna be starting with the F tier spot. That is going to be the tank DH. Obviously, everybody knows this is a terrible PvP class. Now, this is strictly only for 2s. If you guys want to see an RBG and a 3s video, or what type of comps, all that good stuff, you can comment down if you guys enjoy this and all that good stuff. But everybody knows this is an awful class, or a spec. Let me say that. Spec in general, it's garbage. Now, on top of this, we're actually going to go put Blood DK with it. Both are really bad. Now, maybe you can do A-Bomb, and it's probably better than the DH, but I'm still going to be putting both these together. They're just both awful. On top of it, I'm actually going to be adding the Warrior. Now, this is not the one-shot Warrior that it used to be. Now, if it was, this could be a C tier whenever it did the one-shot macro. Quote-unquote Rextroy one-shot. But I don't think it's in the game because you don't see any anymore. But I'm definitely putting those at the F tier class. Now, for the D tier, I'm going to be definitely putting Boomy. Boomy is just, it sucks, but it's really unplayable over like 1900, maybe even 1800. It's just such a bad class. If you do Convoke with like a Rogue, it could be good. Or like Kyrian with a Windwalker, or like Kyrian with a Rogue, it could be maybe a C tier. But Boomy in general is a terrible class. I wouldn't recommend playing it. It's just not a good class to play. But on top of the D tier, we're going to be putting the Ventier Tank. Now, if you're running, there's a Ventier Tank build that you can run as a Tank Druid, which is insanely good. It actually, I'd say it's better than Boomy. You'll do more damage, more burst damage, and also you're a tank. So, you're just going in there, clicking your Thrash, and just doing unhealable damage. But I definitely put it with the Boomy. It kind of sucks that a tank is as good as a Boomy, but, there's going to be even better. Brewmaster, I honestly don't think it's as good. I'm gonna add this to the F tier. I honestly do not think it's as good as Boomy or the Ventier Tank. So I'm gonna add that in there. But on the D tier, I don't think I'm gonna add anything else. I still think Arcane is better than Boomy, but not as good as Fire Mage. So for the C tier, we're going to be putting Arcane Mage as a C tier class. Now, it's still not bad. You can go for the one-shot build. It has a little bit of consistent damage. You can do a build to where it could be consistent damage. Rogue Mage could be good. It's definitely not a class that is good in general, but has a lot of benefits to being the mage. So I'm definitely putting that as a C. Shadow Priest, I'm definitely putting this as a C class. Now, it could be good maybe if you do Shadow Priest and Affliction Warlock, but when Affliction got kind of nerfed, this is definitely a C class now. You don't see many Shadow Priests. It's not really a good class. Definitely not, as good as anything else on this list. Now, I'm gonna add Prop Paladin to this list. In my opinion, I think Prop Paladin is definitely as good as Shadow Priest and the Mage. I think it can do almost as much damage, and it does more healing, if not way more healing than a Shadow Priest and a Mage can do. So I'm definitely gonna put Prop Paladin on top of the C tier. But I'm also gonna be adding. I was gonna add Mistweaver, but I honestly think Mistweaver in general is really good. But I'm actually gonna be adding the Mage class, Frost Mage. I honestly don't think this class is really good in 2s. Same thing. You can play maybe Holy Priest, Mage, or maybe Wrestler Druid, but honestly, in general, you don't really see any Frost Mages over 2100, so I'm not going to be putting this as a B tier. People could argue that it is pretty good. It does damage, but I argue with it. Now for the next class, for the C tier, I honestly could argue that Affliction is really bad now, but I think Affliction is definitely better than all of these on here by a mile because of the amount of damage that you can click without actually clicking anything, just doing unhealable damage. But I'm going to be adding Wrestle Shaman, and I think Wrestle Shaman is a C tier class. I think it's definitely as good as Prop Paladin. It's definitely as good as all of these on here. It has the damage, it has a decent amount of healing. Definitely not a D tier class like Boomy. Boomy is literally unplayable. Shaman's still playable, but it's definitely not a good class. Anything under C is basically just dookie. It's not good. On top of this, I'm actually going to be adding Frost Mage in 2s. I think Frost Mage is an awful class. Now, the thing about Frost Mage is it could definitely be a B tier class just because of A-Bomb and Silence. If you add these two together, it's basically just a one-shot. You don't really survive it unless you click every button. So I'm actually going to put this as a B tier. I'm also going to be putting Destro Lock as a B tier. I definitely think Destro is still a decent class. It's definitely not as good as Demo or Affliction, but it's good. When Destruction got a nerf, when it got to where it couldn't one-shot instantly, people had a really bad opinion about it, thought they were super bad, but I still think they're playable, like in 3s and stuff. But in 2s wise, they're not that good. You just line the burst, and their burst actually doesn't do enough to one-shot you anymore, so it's not as good as it was. So I'm definitely putting that with the Frost DK. It still does damage, just not, any consistent damage anymore. So we're definitely adding that in there. Arms Warrior, I'm going to be putting at a B tier. I definitely think Arms Warrior does not have what it takes to be like a Fury Warrior or anything like that. It has the burst damage, but after that, it's pretty just basic. You really have no defenses. Defenses, like your D stance when it got nerfed, everything with the amount of damage you're doing just one shots you. You just die. There's not much you can do. But I definitely think these all go together perfectly. I'd also add in Enhancement Shaman. I think Enhancement Shaman is a great class. Now, it's only really good if you play double DPS, but it's still a great class. I definitely say, try it out. It is a very fun class. You have a lot of abilities to work with, a lot of healing, a lot of burst damage. It's really a good class to play to learn and have fun with if you're doing WDBS. I would definitely, try it out. I haven't actually tried it out myself, but I plan to sometime in the future. But I'm definitely putting this as a B tier class just because in double DPS it does insanely amount of healing and insanely a lot of DPS. But I'm going to be adding Mistweaver in the B tier. I think it's better than Wrestle Shaman is better than Prop Paladin. Now, Prop Paladin could be a B tier just because of the amount of healing you're getting, but honestly, I think Mistweaver is definitely a B tier. Now, it's not as good as a Holy Paladin, a Disc Priest, or any of those, but it is still playable. You're still able to do things as a Mistweaver, die in a stun, but if you play it correctly, you could get it done correctly. And it could be a fun class. I would definitely try that class out. It's very fun. Don't you have a lot of healing, a lot of burst healing. Your defenses aren't great, but they're not terrible. On top of the beer here, we're going to be adding Ret Paladin. I think Ret Paladin is the same thing as Frost and Enhancement. Have the defensive cooldowns, you have the burst, but you don't have anything consistently. So you don't really do much in between your time. You're just waiting 2 minutes or for a mini proc to do anything. So I think it's definitely a B tier. It's not as good as anything in the A or S, but it is definitely a very good class to play at a lower amount of CR. The next class I'm going to be adding in here, I'm going to be adding in honestly, I figure like that we do a affliction in the B, but I honestly think you don't have to do anything as an affliction, so I honestly would put it as an A. But what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going with Windwalker. I think it's definitely an A tier class. Now, the only problem with Windwalker is it does get countered by hunters, and it's really impossible to be a hunter in 2v2. It's very dumb how hunters are the meta, because hunter almost counters everything on the list here. Almost everything, if not everything. But I think Windwalker is a great class. It has a lot of burst damage, has that stun. You have the stun, the 1 minute stun. You have your burst that can line up with it. If you play with the Holy Priest, very insane. If you do Enhancement, Windwalker, Ret Windwalker, anything double DPS with Windwalker is very good. Definitely going to put that out as an A tier class. Very good. I'm also going to be adding in Marksman. Insane amount of damage. Now, the only problem with Marksman is you don't have a stun, so you're required to play with a Holy Priest or a Rogue, or something with a stun. It has to have a stun with it. So I'm definitely going to be putting that in the A tier. The amount of damage that it can pump out is ridiculously broken, but if you just line it, or if you don't get stunned, you basically just click a cooldown and you can counter it, unless it's unhealable damage. Sometimes it is. I've seen a few above 2200 that just do so much damage, broken, like Kyrian hunters, but they do die very fast. Same thing with Disc Priest. If you're playing Night Fae Disc Priest, I think this is a very, very good class here. Now, you can argue that this is a B tier, which I'm actually going to switch to a B tier. I don't think it has the amount of healing to be in the A tier, like an H-Pal or a Wrestler Druid would. I definitely think it's a B tier healer. Now, I thought it was an A because if you play Night Fae with an Outlaw, it could be actually pretty decent. But I'm definitely going to, in general, the class is going to be put as a B tier. I definitely think it's better than Master Shaman and Paladin. But for the next class here, we are going to be going with Feral Druid. Now, this is every spec. I think Convoke is definitely very good, but Necro in general is definitely an A tier. Very good defensive, survival instincts. You have a big heal in bear form. You have skin. You have a lot of cooldowns to work with. And you're doing a lot of bleeds over time, so it's not like you don't ever have damage. You usually always have damage. And then you also have a new bleed that's in the game that does unhealable damage. So very good class. I would recommend playing it. It's not bad at all. Now we're going to be going with DH for the next one. I think this is a very good class. Not a lot of defensives, and Darkness is pretty garbage. But in general, a lot of burst damage. It's 100-0ing you consistently. If they get a proc, you're basically dead. But defensive-wise, they do not have what it takes to be an S tier class. I do not think it would be an S tier class, but it is very good. Assassination Row, we're going to be doing the first S tier. I think 1 minute Vendetta and Sepsis is super insanely broken. You get Trinket one go, you mind games when they don't have trinkets the next go, and it's basically GG. A lot of incoming pressure per kidney because of the 4-set and the Shiv. It gives you a lot of extra bleed damage. Very crazy. Definitely an S tier class. I definitely think it's an S tier class. Fury Warrior, I think, is an A tier class. Now, if you look at it from a good player POV, it's very good. It can honestly be an S tier, but I don't think it's as good as Outlaw or Survival or anything like that. So I'm gonna be putting that as an A tier class. Definitely a very, very good class for damage. It's basically like a DH, except you're just doing a lot of damage. For the next class here, we're going to be going with Ellie. Now, I think Ellie is still a pretty good class. I think I'm definitely going to put it in the B tier. Now, it does have a lot of burst damage, but unless you're playing Kyrian or like Necro, you're not going to be doing that amount of damage to where it would be like a Fury Warrior or a DH or a Windwalker. It would not be anywhere, near that type of style. So I'm definitely going to be put that as a B tier class. Next class here, we're going to be going with Unholy Dk. I think Unholy Dk is very good. It has a lot of consistent damage. You don't have to be good at Unholy Dk to do damage because of your pets. So I'm definitely going to be putting that as an A tier class. A-bomb with your pet damage, pretty insane. If you play like Wrestle Shaman, Unholy, it could be very good because you're getting a lot of that damage pressure. But in general, I think Unholy is very easy to play and you're just doing a lot of damage the entire game. Next class here is Wrestler Druid. I think Wrestler Druid is going to be the first healer that we get to that's actually pretty decent. I think it's definitely an A. You can basically just sit back, like if you're playing with a Demo lock, you basically just sit back and have a great time. Just do free healing. Not as good as an H-Foe or a Holy Priest. Honestly, it could be up against H-Foe. They could be head-to-head, depending on what classes you're playing with. But in general, I think it's definitely a good class. You got a lot of defenses and it's definitely a good class. First, now we're going to be going with the BM Hunter. Now, if I had an S plus tier category, I would put it there. This is the best class in the game on top of Survival Hunter. Everybody knows this assassination wouldn't be anywhere near these two classes, BM and Survival. Now, if you guys were wondering what class to play, you do want to play these two classes. You will get a lot of rating just playing this class. It's basically like having a name like Peekaboo or something. Just having his name gets him CR. Xvic, having my name gets me CR. Because, they're good. You know what I mean? You get the joke? But these classes are insane. A lot of damage. A lot of MC. A lot of, they're just not gonna happen. They got a lot of CC, a lot of healing reduction, and basically just very good classes. Probably the best classes in the game. Now we're going to be going with Outlaw Rogue. This has a lot of CC. Now, if you think about it, I think Outlaw Rogue gets countered by Hunter, and all you face over 2500 is Hunters. So unless you queue at a certain time and you queue into non-hunters, you're gonna just lose. Now, you might get lucky and you might win, but I don't think Outlaw beats Hunters, but I could be wrong. I only played it for a day. Now, I don't think I'll be playing Outlaw in general. I don't enjoy it. It's very, like, it's like a PvE Fury type setup. I hate it. I don't like things that don't require setups to kill, and that's just me. I really have to have a setup to kill. It makes it more better. I don't like playing comps that take 0 skill and you're just like a DH or a Windwalker where you're just stunning and just 100-0ing and shit. I don't like it. It's not fun to me. So I'm definitely gonna put that in an S tier still. It does a lot of damage. Definitely counters a lot of things on this item tier list, like everything almost, other than hunters. The next class here, we're gonna be going with Holy Priest. I definitely think Holy Priest is an S tier healer. A lot of healing, a lot of defensive cooldowns, a lot of things to get out of CC. Very good healer. Probably the #1 healer right now is Holy Priest. Now you guys can let me know if you guys disagree, but I think everybody agrees that this is an S tier healer. Definitely is the best healer in the game. 100%. Now we're going to be going with Affliction Warlock. I think Affliction is an A tier class, just because you don't actually have to cast to win. You only have to click Sora and Fear to win the game. So I definitely think this is an A tier class. You just don't have to play the game. You just free cast. You can't really get kicked, and you have a lot of defensives. You have a lot of kiting. You have port. You just have a lot of things to kite. I think it's a very good class. If you're facing bad players and you can make them, if you can make them dispel, it's actually just gonna kill them. So it's very, very good. I think Demo is on the same level as an A tier. These two are very, very good. Definitely better than Destro now, but Demo did get an upgrade to where you're just summoning a bunch of pets, you're doing a lot of consistent damage, and I think it's a great class to play. H-Bow, I think, is an A tier. Now, you could argue that it's a S tier, but I don't think it's not anywhere near Holy Priest with Mind Games. Now, it does have a lot of healing where you don't have to cast, but it's definitely not as good as Holy Priest. So I'm going to put this in the A tier with Resto Druid. They're definitely good healers, but they're not as good as Holy Priest. So we're going to put that in the A tier. Fire Mage, I think, is an A tier class. It can only be played with a rogue now, so you're really only playing this with a rogue. Kinda sucks, but it is what it is. This is basically, does a lot of damage, has the CC, but it does not have that stun, so it cannot actually do anything solo. Sub-rogue, I play sub-rogue, so this could be an S tier or an A tier. I don't think it's as good as Outlaw or Assassination or any of these, so I'm gonna actually put this as an A tier. A tier here. Now, we could argue that this is an S tier, but I do not think for a newcomer player or anywhere you need to be very, very good and be on time, synced up to make Sub Rogue work. If you're not synced, you're going to be 1400, not having a fun time. So just because of that, I'm going to be putting this as an A tier. Very, very good class. If you add these two together, you can put it as an S tier, but I honestly, if we're looking at this, one at a time. We're not doing this comp-wise. We're doing the actual class in general. So I think Sub-Rogue is definitely an A tier. If you guys did enjoy this tier setup, let me know if I messed anything up, all that good stuff. But I will see you guys in the next video. Leave a comment on what you guys want to see next. Maybe we can do a threes one, an RBG one, maybe a comp-wise, all that good stuff. Let me know what you guys want to see, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace, peace.